Life for Mind presents. Did you know that 80% of people encounter some form of toxicity or conflict daily? Shocking, isn't it? This astounding figure is a stark reminder of the reality we live in. A world where conflict and toxicity have become common encounters, like a radio playing a tune we've become all too accustomed to. It's in our workplaces, our homes, our social circles, and even within ourselves. The prevalence of such negativity can seem overwhelming, almost as if we're swimming against a relentless current. But it's not all grim. This prevalence also underscores the importance of effectively dealing with toxicity and conflict. It's like learning to swim. If we're going to be in the water, we'd better learn how to navigate it. So where does that leave us? Well, it's a call to action. A call to become better at handling these difficult situations. It's about developing strategies, honing skills, and cultivating an attitude that not only withstands, but thrives amidst such challenges. You see, toxicity and conflict aren't just problematic because they're unpleasant. They have real tangible impacts on our mental and emotional well-being. They can cause stress, anxiety, and even physical health issues. But the flip side of this coin is that by learning to effectively manage these situations, we can significantly improve our overall quality of life. It's about more than just surviving. It's about thriving. It's about turning the tables on toxicity and conflict and using them as catalysts for growth and development. It's about becoming stronger, more resilient, and more emotionally intelligent. It's about becoming smart. Not in the traditional, book-smart kind of way, but in the way we handle our relationships, our conflicts, and ourselves. It's about becoming the kind of person who can walk into a storm and come out the other side, not just unscathed, but better for it. So, how do we become this kind of person? How do we become smart in the face of toxicity and conflict? Well, that's what we're here to explore. Let's delve into how smart people handle these challenging situations. Smart people exhibit one common trait: high emotional intelligence. Picture this: a high-stakes business meeting, tension in the air, disagreements escalating into full-blown conflict. In the midst of this, there's one person who remains calm, composed, and in control. Let's call them Alex. Alex is an embodiment of emotional intelligence. They understand that emotions aren't obstacles, but tools. Alex reads the room, perceives the underlying emotions, and reacts accordingly. They don't add fuel to the fire. Instead, they douse it with empathetic understanding. In managing toxicity and conflict, Alex doesn't push their viewpoint or argue. They listen, they empathize, and they respond thoughtfully. They know that each person's perspective is shaped by their emotions, and by acknowledging these emotions, they pave the way for effective communication. Emotional intelligence, like Alex's, enhances understanding and empathy, making conflict less about winning and more about resolving. So remember, understanding is the first step to resolution. Active listening is not just hearing, it's understanding. It's like the story of two colleagues, John and Sarah. John, a passionate worker, was often misunderstood as aggressive, causing tension. Sarah, on the other hand, was a pro at active listening. Instead of reacting to John's tone, she listened. Really listened. She heard the passion behind his words, the eagerness to excel. She understood him. One day, John lashed out at a team meeting. Instead of responding in kind, Sarah practiced active listening. She let John express himself, then repeated his points back to him, ensuring she'd understood. She validated his feelings, then calmly expressed her perspective. John was taken aback. He felt heard, understood, and the tension eased. Sarah's active listening had effectively diffused a toxic situation. She didn't just hear John's words, she understood them, and in doing so, created a bridge of communication. That's the power of active listening. So listen, understand, and then respond. Boundaries are not just physical, they are mental and emotional too. This is a crucial concept to understand when dealing with toxicity and conflict. Let's consider the story of Emily, a brilliant software engineer. Emily found herself constantly drained by her colleague Mark. He'd often barge into her workspace with his problems, expecting her to drop everything and help. Emily felt overwhelmed and began dreading work. She realized she needed to set boundaries. She began by communicating her concerns to Mark. She explained that while she was happy to help, she needed her own space and time to focus on her work. Initially, Mark was taken aback, but Emily stood firm. She set specific times during the day when she could assist Mark and asked him to respect her workspace at other times. This boundary setting not only alleviated Emily's stress but also improved their working relationship. Mark began to value Emily's time and expertise more, and Emily felt respected and heard. Set your boundaries and don't let anyone cross them. Positivity is not just a mindset, it's a lifestyle. Let's take a moment to explore a story that beautifully illustrates this. Picture a woman named Emily. She was caught in a toxic work environment with a boss who belittled her at every turn. However, Emily had a secret weapon: positivity. She started each day with a mantra: "I am capable, I am strong." This wasn't about ignoring the harsh reality but rather about fortifying her mindset. Emily made a conscious effort to surround herself with positive influences outside of work. She took up painting, joined a book club, and even started volunteering at a local community center. These activities filled her with joy and a sense of purpose, which she carried into her workspace. Her positive attitude began to radiate, influencing those around her, and one day, her boss noticed. He saw a resilient, determined woman where he once saw an easy target. Emily's positivity had transformed her situation. Stay positive and see the change. Acceptance doesn't mean agreement, it means understanding. Let's illustrate this with a story. Imagine two colleagues, Alice and Bob. Alice is constantly critical of Bob's work, undermining his confidence. Bob, feeling frustrated and judged, begins to harbor resentment. However, Bob's approach changes when he learns more about Alice's background. He discovers that Alice grew up in an environment where criticism was the norm, and she uses it as a misguided form of motivation. Bob doesn't agree with Alice's approach, but he understands it. This acceptance doesn't justify Alice's behavior, but it allows Bob to view it from a different perspective. He learns to separate Alice's criticism from his self-worth, reducing its impact on his confidence. Bob's acceptance also paves the way for a crucial conversation with Alice, addressing the issue in a non-confrontational manner. This new understanding fosters empathy and opens the door for positive change. Acceptance can be the key to resolution. Forgiveness is not just for them, it's for you. This is something that often gets overlooked when dealing with toxicity and conflict. Let's explore a story that highlights the power of forgiveness. Imagine a woman, we'll call her Jane. Jane had a difficult relationship with her coworker, who constantly belittled her ideas. This created a toxic work environment, causing Jane stress and anxiety. One day, Jane decided to forgive her coworker. Not because he asked for it or even because he deserved it, but because Jane realized she was carrying a burden of resentment that was only causing her harm. By forgiving, Jane was able to let go of her negative feelings. She felt lighter, more at peace, and found her work environment less oppressive. Her coworker's behavior didn't change, but the way Jane reacted to it did. She was no longer a victim, but someone who chose peace over conflict. So remember, forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Dealing with toxicity and conflict is an art, and like any art, it requires practice. We've walked through the labyrinth of human psychology, and now we stand at the threshold of understanding, ready to apply these principles to our lives. We began our journey recognizing the prevalence of toxicity and conflict. It's a universal phenomenon, an unavoidable part of human interaction, but it's how we respond to these situations that truly matters. The first step towards effective resolution is awareness. Next, we dove into the power of emotional intelligence. It's about recognizing our emotions and those of others, using this understanding to guide our actions, keeping our cool even in the heat of conflict. It's about being the calm in the storm. Then, we explored the art of active listening. It's not just about hearing words but understanding the emotions and intentions behind them. It's about validating others' feelings, showing empathy, and building bridges of understanding. We also discussed the importance of boundaries. It's about self-preservation, knowing when to say no, when to step back. It's about respecting your mental and emotional space, and expecting the same from others. We talked about the power of positivity, about looking for the silver lining even in the darkest clouds. It's about shifting our perspective, focusing on solutions rather than problems. We underscored the role of acceptance. It's about acknowledging that we can't control everything. It's about letting go of the need to always be right and understanding that it's okay to agree to disagree. And finally, we emphasized the power of forgiveness. It's about releasing resentment, letting go of grudges. It's not about forgetting, but about choosing peace over bitterness. Each of these strategies is a tool in your arsenal, a weapon to wield against toxicity and conflict. And like any tool, they become more effective with use. So start today, apply these principles in your interactions, and share your experiences. Remember, the change begins with you. Start today and see the difference.